Good morning. Okay, we're back again here talking about basics and movement, and of course that leads into kata. And we've worked on short one kata, we've worked on the basic blocks. For my yellow belts, we start to extend how the stances work, change from a horse stance into whatever stance it is in that particular form. Then in long one kata, we're going to what we call a forward bow or a hard bow in some instances. When I came up through, it was called a hard bow. I like the forward bow aspect because I'm trying to stay away from the sharp, crisp stoppage of the techniques, because in real situations there's never a stoppage, and I want you to try and understand that. However, from the standpoint of the actual form itself, the kata is a basic extension of short one. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you the salutation, and we'll start into the form, and I'm going to execute, and as I execute I'm kind of describe what I'm doing. But the first thing I'm going to do is simply perform the kata facing this way and do the kata facing that way so you can follow from behind. So here we go. And again, remember the salutations are a very shortened version. So it'd be Kepo kata, long one, bow, we're going to step off left into our horse stance. And then I'm going to step back. And as I step back, I'm going to step back and block. I'm going to pivot and punch. I'm going to block. Step back, I'm going to block, and pivot and punch. And that head transfer left. Spin my hands around, I block and punch. 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 And back in my horse stance. Finish with my salutation. Clear and ready to go again. I'm going to do it from the behind. Kepo kata, long one. Ice. So there's the kata. I've done it forward, I've done it back. For those of you who are working on the details at this juncture, when we're after we've finished our salutation and we've stepped up to our stance, the first series of motions is a 3-shot. So I'm stepping back with my left foot as I inward block, I'm pivoting and punching. And when I pivot and punch, what's happening is I'm not using my arms, I'm not using my shoulder, I'm not using just my hip, but I'm driving off the ball of my foot, and this back leg straightens. This front leg stays in that bent position. And my hand, as an extension of my hip and body, executes the punch. The whole idea here is to try and use as much power as possible, because this doesn't do much, and neither does this if you're smaller. But if I get my whole body behind it and I have a proper target, it's going to give you much more power. Now again, this is form, so I'm not going to fight this way. I'm not going to, all right? But the idea behind form is to practice the basics. And basics here are about changing stances, how that stance works for you in different applications. In this particular one, we're using it to drive forward. You've seen it before in the series of self-defense. We do the same thing. We step forward, inward block, pivot into a forward bow or a hard bow elbow. But in the form, this is the only time we do a 3. Everything else becomes 2s. So it becomes block, punch, block, and then the second course is block, punch. Now, from the detail aspect of it, when I'm in this stance and I'm stepping back and I'm pivoting, notice my hand and my arm come across. What I'm not doing is cocking my hand out and bringing it across. The big showy ha, ha, ha leaves this big old square in the middle that you practice over and over and over again, and in real life you go to block and you have this big square and somebody hits you in it. So the whole idea here is to make sure that when I'm stepping and pivoting, the arm and shoulder pivot, they switch places as I punch, and they switch places as I block. And I step back. Notice when I'm here and stepping back, getting ready to unwind, where is this hand still? Still in front of my face. Okay, so that when I pivot, the block takes its place. Okay? Now I pivot and punch. Now the fallacy with kata is, this hand is where? It's not up to guard. The chambering kind of acts as the form version of your guard. And that's one of the bad things about kata, is it's teaching you again to chamber this thing down here. But the idea behind it is to always be pulling your hand back as one hand is doing force. So if I'm punching with this hand, I'm also pulling with this hand, okay, as I pull back. So the idea is to give you more torque and more power in everything you do, whether it's a push, a pull, a throw, and it really doesn't matter, okay? The whole idea is it keeps you centrally balanced. Here, if I push, I fall forward. If I pull back. But if I push and pull, my body stays forward. It stays in a stationary. And you want to stay stationary and upright if at all possible in these kinds of situations. So that's the key to long one, is making sure that your hands are all in the right place. So I'm going to do this again, walk through it, so you can see my hands as I step through and I pivot and I block, and I punch, and I block, and the hand stays there, I block, and I punch. I find my next opponent, and as I do so, my right foot comes up and my right hand protects my face. And as I step back, now I can execute my hour block and pivot into my punch. Now what's this hand going to do? I just punched with it. What do you think it's going to do? Okay? So I'm going to have to do what? I'm going to have to step back. And as I step back, because it's closest, I'm going to use it to protect. This hand is going to protect my face. And as I step back, I'm going to unwind, and I'm going to pivot and punch. Now, I look over to my next opponent. My right hand comes up to my face. My left hand is again in this universal block position. And as I step back, I'm sliding up the outside, remember always the outside of the arm, into my upper block. The other hand was protecting my face, and I punch. Okay? Now as I step back here, this hand is coming up to protect my face. This hand is coming across. Again, for that brief moment in time, it's a universal block. And I upper block. Okay? And I'm going to pivot and punch. Last time through. This time it's all downward. So as I step through, my left hand is protecting my groin instead of my face, and my right hand is crossed again in this universal block position. I'm going to downward block and punch. Okay? As I draw back, again, I'm in this universal block position. In this particular moment in time, I step back and unwind, pivot and punch. And as my hand and feet move together, everything comes together. So that's it for this particular session. We're going to be working these motions in class. I want you to review, give me your feedback, and we'll go from there. Have a good day.